All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into a really provocative book, Anand Giridharadas' Winners Take All. We're going to break down its core argument. So, the book starts by throwing this huge, challenging question right at you. It's really the puzzle at the heart of the whole thing. Can the people who benefit the most from our current systems, the global elite, actually be the ones to solve massive problems like inequality? And that question leads us straight to the book's main point. The big idea is this. A lot of those popular change the world efforts, the ones that make everyone feel good, might actually be doing the opposite. Instead of fixing things, the argument goes, they end up reinforcing the very systems that are causing the problems to begin with. It's kind of like a moral shield. Okay, so how on earth does that happen, right? Well, the book says it's not just a coincidence. There's a predictable pattern at play, and it gives it a name, the elite charade. So let's break down exactly what that looks like. All right, so this here is the whole playbook laid out in 6 steps. And it's a pretty wild cycle when you see it all together. It all starts with the winners, the folks who are already on top. They get to define what change even means. And surprise, surprise, they tend to favor solutions that are good for business and don't shake things up too much. Then you get the big flashy events and all the PR to make it look amazing, even if the impact is pretty small. And the solutions themselves? They often just put a band-aid on a symptom, think job training, instead of tackling the root cause, like, say, tax policy or labor laws. If anyone tries to push for real deep change, that dissent kind of gets absorbed into a new committee or initiative that the elites control. And boom, at the end of it all, they get the moral credit for giving back, without ever having to make the hard political choices, like paying more taxes. Okay, to really dig into this, we've got to get a handle on some of the key terms the book uses. There's a whole vocabulary for this world of elite-led social change, so let's decode it. First up is this idea of market world. Now, this isn't a real place you can visit. It's more of a mindset, an ecosystem of conferences, think tanks, and big-name influencers, where every social problem gets looked at through a business lens. You know the vibe. Think of a Davos-style event. The solution to poverty isn't going to be something messy like raising the minimum wage. It's going to be a sleek, new impact investment fund. It's a world where doing good is supposed to be good for business, and most importantly, it can't make anyone powerful feel uncomfortable. And if market world had an official language, it would be win-win rhetoric. This is that super appealing idea that, hey, we can solve huge social problems and make a profit at the same time. No tough choices, no sacrifices, everybody wins. It sounds great, right? But the book argues that this is often just a fantasy that lets everyone avoid the really hard conversations about things like wealth redistribution or stronger regulations. And all of this kind of builds up to this one big concept: philanthrocapitalism. This is basically taking business logic, all about metrics, efficiency, scale, and applying it directly to doing good. It reframes the ultra-wealthy not just as people who write checks, but as these genius problem solvers who can swoop in and fix society's biggest issues better than the government can. And a key part of that is often doing an end run around the slow, messy process of politics. This slide just lays out the core tension of the entire book so perfectly. On one side, you've got these charitable fixes, private, voluntary, and focused on symptoms. On the other side, you have system change, which is all about politics, structural reforms, and actually changing the rules of the game for everybody. The book's big argument? Market world is completely obsessed with that left column, but real durable change, that almost always comes from the stuff on the right. So, if that's the diagnosis of the problem, what's the cure? What's the alternative path? Well, the book argues we have to shift our gaze to look beyond these private fixes and towards something much bigger. Let's make this real with an example. Say the problem is struggling public schools. The market world solution might be something like this: a privately funded pilot program for a cool new learning app. It looks great, right? It feels innovative, you can measure its success on a small scale, and, this is the key part, it doesn't mess with the underlying complicated system of public school funding at all. So, what's the alternative? A political solution. For the exact same problem of struggling schools, this would look totally different. We're talking about a new law that overhauls the school funding formula for the whole state, or maybe one that guarantees better pay for all teachers. You see the difference? It's a structural change. It's not about patching a hole, it's about rebuilding the wall. So, the book's prescription for real change is a pretty radical shift in where we put our energy. It's about moving away from relying on private, voluntary fixes and getting back to the hard work of democratic politics. That means supporting our public institutions, our schools, our government agencies. It means philanthropists should be funding movements that push for systemic reform, not just dictating their own pet projects. And maybe the most important part, it means demanding that the people at the top accept real limits on their power. Things like higher taxes and stronger rules for everyone. And that brings us to the real takeaway here. What this book really gives you is a new tool, a critical lens you can use. It boils down to one simple, powerful question you can ask anytime you hear about some new plan to save the world. Yeah, this quote just nails it. The challenge is, the next time you hear about some big initiative from a tech company or a famous billionaire, look past the slick PR and the feel-good story. Ask yourself, who really benefits from this solution? Does it actually threaten the status quo and the current power structure, or does it, maybe even unintentionally, end up preserving it? So in the end, this is the question the book leaves us with, and it's a powerful one. Whenever you see a proposed solution, you have to ask, does this actually redistribute power? Does it change the fundamental rules of the game? Or is it just a shiny, more efficient way to manage the symptoms of a system that stays exactly the same? The book argues that the answer to that question, well, it tells you pretty much everything.